So we have come from global issues to European level, back to Finland and to Helsinki and in Jätkäsaari. So we are already on the site. Sitra, the Finnish Innovation Fund, with its partners, will launch now an international competition for building a sustainable and innovative block in Western Harbour of Helsinki. In addition to Helsinki City, Sitra has two main developing partners for Jätkäsaari. They are VVO and SRV. VVO is a publicly listed company providing housing services. VVO has some 38,000 rental and owner-occupied dwellings in several cities in Helsinki, in Finland. SRV is a major Finnish construction company with more than 800 employees and revenue of around 537 million euros. So we will continue the work with these partners, and now we will launch the competition. Our aim is to encourage planners, designers, engineers of different fields and the building industry to focus more intensively on sustainable building. And that is not only energy efficiency, it is production of clean energy in buildings, as we have heard today. It is low carbon or carbon-free building materials. Value of building materials will increase when we go low energy level or passive houses. And sustainable building is also new lifestyles and much more. City of Helsinki has been very incentive and flexible partner from the very beginning of developing this project. I believe that our project is also a good addition to Helsinki's new apartment house development program, which has started as well. Marko Steinberg from Sitra has been leading the competition programming, and Marko will now briefly introduce the competition, and after lunch we have a detailed presentation. Marko, please.
Is that better? Okay, thank you. So thank you, Jukka. I will be brief. My point here is just to give a very quick summary overview of the competition and why we're running a competition. After all, we are the Finnish Innovation Fund and we don't generally build buildings. So I think it warrants a little bit of explanation why we're doing what it is we're doing and how what we do perhaps both shares in common with traditional ways, but also in a way proposes something new about how we approach this problem. Let me maybe just underscore one thing before I get started here, both as a way for us to keep focus on this opportunity, but also to remind ourselves about the challenge that we have in front of us. I think Finland, we recognize as a country with tremendous resources, both ranging from education all the way to infrastructural issues. We're also a very small country. And in this global landscape, we need to challenge ourselves to be at the forefront of new and innovative solutions. And because of our scale, we have a unique opportunity to bring all the scales that are necessary to implement these kind of systemic changes that range from the in-the-field solution all the way up to policy making. So having said that, let me say that sustainability is a very broad topic. We heard from our previous speakers that it involves a high degree of issues that are tied to culture and tradition, to behavior. It requires massive infrastructure, policy making, global issues. So for us, the question is, if we're going to do something in sustainability, our frame for that is going to be carbon. And the key for carbon is going to be energy. That's not to say that energy alone is a solution or that carbon alone is a solution, but it's a way to bring focus to this. And we all know that if we do a building that is highly efficient, but in terms of planning, put it far away from the centers of work, that the systems that need to be employed to move people from there to work will actually counter the benefits of the individual solution. So that's a very simple demonstration of how a building solution on its own is not going to survive. It requires planning, and it requires actions in many scales. Let me explain a little bit the title, Low to No. It's always difficult coming up with a word that captures the spirit of a competition. As has emerged in our panel discussion and in some of the comments after that, what we do want to avoid is a solution that is an island, that is a fabulous building, or a city block that's great, that sits in a sea of CO2 and other kinds of decisions. So low to no implies not so much we want solutions that are about what the future is going to be, but solutions that get us from here to there. That is the great challenge for us, is how do we get from the current situation to where we need to go, not what where need to go is like. So when we think about sustainability, we are talking about things that relate to the sustainability of the planet, but we also have to keep in mind other things such as economic sustainability of our strategies. And it is also a strategy that allows us to do something now that would then provide a solution that is robust and replicable. So here I come back to the Finnish Innovation Fund. Our mission involves taking on problems that are at the key of Finnish competitiveness, and frequently these problems don't have a single owner. I think sustainability is probably one of them. We hope that through the competition we can help at least foster the kind of innovation we need. So let me just talk a little bit about the process. It's fairly simple. When we looked around the world for sustainability solutions, there's a lot of fabulous work that is happening. But at the end of the day, we need to recognize that this is at its infancy, especially when you take a historical perspective on solutions. So it wasn't so much a question of running a traditional competition where we ask for a solution. The primary task for us was to actually understand how could we even start approaching this problem. What is the strategy? And we recognize that it's not just an architectural problem. In fact, a lot of people will ask, is this an architectural competition? No, it's not. It's a design competition that has a significant architectural component. But you're not going to solve it without an energy policy understanding, without infrastructure, without urban, without landscape, without a lot of components. So our task was how and who, not so much what the end solution is. So we're running a request for qualifications that starts now. And I will go through the schedule, but it will be open for about 3 weeks, where we simply ask for teams to come together based on specific criteria that can demonstrate have the right experience and the right team makeup to address this problem. From the pool of RFQ respondents, we will select up to 5 teams that will then be given resources in May and deliver in July, at the 1st July, 3 different things for us. One is an approach to this problem. What is the strategy? The second is, how do you think of an indicator, a framework for it, not a solution, but a framework? How do we measure sustainability in this Nordic context? And thirdly, which is perhaps of a simpler order of magnitude, but relevant, is to create a visual image of what this could be. Because we need to interface with a lot of stakeholders, and some of the solutions are going to be immaterial, but we need to also provide something that creates convergence. So this is the RFQ. What we're asking is, you need some requirements on a team to qualify. So you need architecture, you need engineering, we need landscape architecture, and then we have a word there that perhaps is not so much a profession like the ones that are before, but that you have to be able to provide sustainable development know-how in your team. This is the absolute basic. If you have a team that doesn't have architecture, you're not qualified to respond to this. Given this, we think that you need other qualities too, to have a team that's robust enough to understand the problem holistically and at all of the scales that are required. And here are some of the terms that we've included. And a little bit like a menu here, there is a third category which we're always open for teams to actually bring in new attributes in terms of skill sets that they think is necessary to begin solving and providing a solution. Let me talk a little bit about the schedule here. April 1st, which is tomorrow, you can start submitting your RFQs. And on the 22nd, that will close. In the afternoon, I'll actually run through the RFQ in much more detail, and we'll have a question and answer session. So now I'm just giving you an overview. Based on the RFQs, we will select, as I said, up to 5 teams that will given resources. They will come in early June here for a workshop and an immersion into Finnish modes of doing, culture, business practice, climate issues. And then on July 1st, we'll ask these teams to submit the 3 components in the proposal. One thing to keep in mind, if you do respond to the RFQ, you need to be available for these dates in Finland. And then September 1st, we'll announce the winner. And in September, we're going to bring our development building partnership and our design partnership together. And as I said, our challenge is not so much great ideas, but how do you implement great ideas that get us from here to where we need to go. That is the fundamental challenge. And here, just very simply in diagrammatic form, the 3 things we're going to be asking for those 5 teams to do is to design a strategy. So not so much provide a solution, but how do you approach the problem? Design an indicator. And here I would use framework. We're not expecting a solution for the indicator, but how do you start framing how you measure sustainability in this context? And then design a vision. What could the implications of the above two be in terms of our city block, and hopefully those ideas and their replicability can in a way impact visions for greater areas. I think that's probably all I'm going to say right now. I'm sure there's about 12 things that I've forgotten to say. If there's a quick question, I'm happy to take it. But as I said, we can get into more details about the RFQ in the afternoon session.
But let's take some questions. You're in the front.
Per Silén, private practitioner architect. We have just heard how it's important to involve the whole culture of the city to create change. Now you have chosen a competition setup that excludes the grassroots action and only confines the participants to 5 teams chosen on previous merits. Is that the right way of going? Thank you.
I think it's a good question. Perhaps we could frame the question slightly differently. I don't see this as an exclusive approach. In fact, the question of merit we've left quite open. We recognize, because this problem area is in its infancy, that some teams may not actually have enough previous experience in sustainability per se. In fact, when you look at the request for qualifications, we're asking for teams to demonstrate the ability to think systemically. So what we're looking more is for the attributes that are necessary for this kind of work. And for sure, one competition is not going to be able to address all issues, but we hope that there are grassroots communities that feel they have an entryway into the solution and that they will respond to our RFQ. So I hope it's framed in a way that is not exclusive, but actually quite inclusive.
Yes. My name is Asko Takala, and I'm also a practicing architect. My question is about the schedule of the competition. It's quite short. And in my understanding, this means that there's not so much time for developing things. It's more of collecting things within teams and within proposals. Usually the time needed for developing something new takes a little bit longer. I think this looks like more like a kind of collecting or let's say mapping where we are standing now in this competition if the time is so short?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good question. I mean, I think part of my answer would go back to what is your baseline for saying whether it's long or short. If we compare this to a traditional architecture competition, perhaps. Although being an architect and being a member of SAFA, and actually, Harry, I don't know if I paid my dues, but if I haven't, the check's in the mail. But I know also that a lot of competitions are, from my own practice perspective, run in a fairly short period of time, although the competition window is large. But as I said, the intent of this competition is not so much to seek solutions. That's not our primary order. It's actually just to identify the right teams with the right approach. So if your benchmark is producing plans and sections and perspectives for an architecture competition, perhaps. But if it's about being able to demonstrate you have the right team and the right understanding in terms of an approach, then we believe that this is actually a good window of opportunity to provide that. And we think that the solution will actually happen once we bring the building and partnership to this and actually in a way working in the ground. That's where the more traditional design component will come into play.
Thank you. So I think we go in details after the lunch break, and then you have more time to ask questions and go deeper. Please do.
Can I just say one thing? I forgot. Minor details in life. For those of you who haven't taken a look, low2know, LOW2NO.org is our website, where you will find the competition sort of summary. You will find the request for qualifications. You can upload your RFQ responses. We will also have a Q&A session that will open later on where people can submit questions related to this process. And this webcast will be also available for review later on.
Yeah.
I'll be quiet now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And before lunch, I also want to introduce Justin Cook, who has been actively working with Marco in building this competition. Justin Cook is an architect from Harvard Design School as well, and working for Sitra. So now it's time for lunch break, and those who are interested in further details, you are welcome back. Everybody is welcome back after the lunch break to continue. And I would like to ask speakers to go quickly to a media room there downstairs. Media is waiting for you there with some questions. And I will conclude this morning session and thank very much for all speakers for interesting presentations, and let's continue after the break. Thank you very much.